Hello and welcome to another episode of Be a Leader podcast, where we talk about leadership in issues in sports, business, and military. And today we are previewing the Michigan-Ohio State football game, which is going on this Saturday. So it's going to be number 1 Ohio State at number 15 Michigan. And we're going to preview this game by looking at last year's game. And as we usually do, look at it through a leadership lens. What things can we learn from last year's game to kind of get an idea of what to look for this year's game? So before we talk about this game, let's talk about why the rivalry matters. There's a lot of rivalries out there. This one's a big one. They call it the game. It started really before college football was even being played. It started in 1835 when both the territories of Michigan and Ohio were disputing this strip of land called the Toledo territory, essentially. Both sides were wanting it. They were fighting it, and then both sides geared up their militia. They met. Shots were only fired up in the air. No one was killed during the conflict, but the militaries came up to fight for the territory. U.S. government came in. They tried to make some peace out of it. Essentially, Michigan was granted to become a state. They were given the Upper Peninsula, and then Ohio got Toledo. The idea was it was going to be a big city, kind of like what Chicago was, but I guess Ohio didn't know how to do that. So anyways, Toledo is what it is today. So that rivalry, the state fighting, ended up coming out in college football. First game was 1897. There's still people living that were still mad at the other state, and now they got to fight out on the football field. And over the years, both teams became powerhouses. Michigan's the number 1 all-time wins. Ohio State's the number 2 all-time wins. They both have a bunch of national championships between them. The game usually ended up implicating what the Big Ten Conference would do and national champions. In fact, in 2023, the last 2 champions, one of them is Michigan, one of them is Ohio State. They've won the last 2 together out of the Big Ten. So they've had big implications. And going into last year, they played November 30th, 2024. It was a very interesting game because Ohio State was loaded. They were number 2 at the time. They were playing at home. They had the best talent. They were preseason favorite to win the whole thing. They were very good. Michigan was coming off a rebuild. They had just won the national championship, and all these people left. Their head coach left. A lot of coaches left. A lot of players left. They didn't have a really big quarterback name. In fact, they had 2 guys that were just kind of there. They had Warren and Orgy. Both of them, neither of them great. And so that was what was happening. It was playing at Ohio State. Again, Ohio State had a bunch of fanfare. They were a very good team. And the predictions by everyone outside of Ann Arbor was blowout. Blowout, blowout, blowout. 20, 30, 40-point game. They just thought it was a blowout because the talent difference was just very big. And the result was that Michigan ended up winning 13-10. 13-10. Sorry if there's a spoiler for you. I'll put up a video that Fox Sports did that was very good on what happened in that game if you'd like to see highlights. But Michigan ended up winning 13-10. Both sides made 1 touchdown. Michigan made 2 field goals. Ohio State made 1. I think they missed 2 or 3 field goals in that game. And Ohio State had the ball at the end and couldn't score. It was a crazy game. So this year, it's in Ann Arbor. Ohio State is number 1. Michigan is number 15. Michigan has better talent this year. Very young freshman quarterback. And Ohio State's still loaded. So we'll see what happens. But again, let's kind of see what we can learn from last year. And now as we're looking forward to this Saturday, seeing what we see. So why did Ohio State lose? I have 4 reasons why they lost. The first one is they mistake talent for victory. It's so easy to be like, we got the best talent. It's an automatic win. And talent usually does win. All right, I coach college basketball. I've been around sports for a long time. Talent usually does end up winning, but it's not a guarantee. Execution matters. Execution matters. And it didn't quite play out that way for Ohio State. The execution wasn't there. I think about military units when they're playing against guerrilla tactics or terrorists, right? I was deployed in Iraq. They play different games. The execution has to matter. You can't, just because you're a big force, it's not going to go your ways. There's no automatic victories. You can't assume that you're given a victory, and that's when problems are lost, right? The enemy always has a vote, as we say in the Marine Corps. The second thing that Ohio State did that contributed to the loss was that they didn't play to their strengths. They're a very talented team. They have a very good passing game. It just didn't seem like they were using it. They have the best athlete, Smith, number 4, and they hardly used him at all. They they played small, they played cautious, they played reactive, and they played not to lose. And what's often is the case when you play not to lose, you're setting yourself up to lose. You got to play to win, right? So I think about businesses. If you're scared of disruption, you're often left behind. When you abandon your identity, you're abandoning your competitive advantage. And in this game, they abandoned their competitive advantage by abandoning their identity. They didn't play to their strength. It was a big surprise to me. If it was me, I would have just been, Ryan Day, pass the ball, pass the ball, pass the ball. We're going to get yards, we're going to get touchdowns, we're going to get flags. Just keep passing the ball. They can't cover us all day. That's the way I would have played if I was Ryan Day. The third reason why Ohio State lost that game was they had this "we have time" mentality. That's the way I saw it when I watched the game. It's like we have plenty of time, got all the talent, it's gonna work out. We got the time, we got the time, we got the time until they didn't have the time. Until it was fourth down and like whatever amount of yards, until the scramble happens and they threw the ball into nowhere and they had no time. This idea, this lack of urgency in leadership creates a lot of challenges, a lot of problems. Think about companies and business who delay innovation. Oh, we have the largest market cap, or we're known for this, and other people are going to come and start disrupting it. You can't just delay innovation. You have to have some type of urgency. Okay, I think about in the military, in the Marine Corps, with this idea where you're constantly improving your position. Position improvement is so important because the enemy has a vote. The enemy's not stupid, right? Other teams aren't stupid. They're going to find some way. They're going to attack you. And so the complacency kills. Having that urgency is very important, and they lacked urgency, in my opinion, the way I saw it. The fourth reason was they weren't emotionally ready for this game. Okay, Michigan came in with urgency because they knew they had to start hard from the beginning. They had to score any opportunity. They had to score. They had to go. They had to go. They had to go. They had no room for errors. Michigan did because they just had less talent, and that emotional focus was very powerful in how they played. Whereas Ohio State felt tense. Ryan Day, their head coach, was kind of on the hot seat. He hadn't been able to win. They had lost 3 years in a row. This fourth year, he couldn't lose, and so there was kind of this uh, like we gotta win, but we got enough talent; it'll work itself out. And they didn't just go emotionally focused and driven. They were overthinking. There was no clarity on how they were going to perform. Think about business leaders in crises. You got to really be focused on what you need to accomplish. I think about military units. I've seen this before when they're not mentally and emotionally focused. That's when issues happen. That's where blue on blue friendly fire happens. That's when people get hurt when they're not focused, but it's got to be emotionally too, very focused on what you're trying to do, being ready. You can say that being emotionally focused, being emotionally prepared is giving you a competitive advantage. Be emotionally ready. Michigan was, Ohio State was not. Let's flip to Michigan. I gave you 4 reasons why Ohio State lost that game. I'll give you 3 reasons why Michigan won that game. So the first one was they were committed to their identity. I told you they didn't have the most talent, but they had one thing that they were very, very good at, and that was the run game. They had a strong offensive line, and they had a good running back, and they ran, and they ran, and they ran. They knew who they were. And when they came to Ohio State there in Columbus, they did it over and over and over and over and over again. It's who they are, who they were at the time, and they showed up that way. I think about Chick-fil-A. What are they good at? It's in the name. They serve chicken. If it ain't chicken, they don't serve it. They're very good at that game. I think about the Marine Corps, my time in the Marine Corps. We have one main effort. The Army has multiple main efforts. The Marine Corps has one main effort. It's infantry. Everything serves infantry. And we know it and we're good at it and we have it part of who we are. Every Marine is a rifleman. Every Marine officer is a rifle platoon commander. We train on that. We do it over and over again and we're really good at it. Leaders win by being very clear and being very committed on who they are. Michigan did that game. Ohio State did not. Michigan ended up winning that game. So that's the first point on why Michigan won. The second one is the defense. I'm going to call it the defense. They stayed very calm in the game. They knew Ohio State was very talented. They tried to neutralize their strengths, but they focused on one snap at a time. That's all you can do is one step at a snap at a time, being very present in the moment. They focused on that. Thinking about the military, being very steady under fire, because you know things are going to go up and down. Okay, but being very steady, focused on the now, pushing. Composure is contagious, especially when it comes from leadership. That's why it's important to have several layers of leadership. And when the layers of leadership are composed, because we all look at each other, we all learn from each other, we sense the situation from each other. And when we have several layers of leadership that's composed, it's contagious. That's why I really preach. Composure is contagious when it's coming from leadership. So really focus on that, on what your body is giving out. And the third one is they believed they could win. It didn't seem like anyone else believed they could win, but they believed that they could win. Belief is not a cliche. I tell my basketball players, if you believe you can't do it, you're right. If you believe you can't do it, you're right. It starts there. It starts because the belief is going to lead into the emotions and the actions that you're going to take that's going to lead into the results. It's all connected. Okay, think about startups. The whole reason why startups start is because they want to disrupt the game. They believe that they have some value, some innovation that they can crack into that ecosystem and offer the clients something that's not being already offered, and that's how they get started. Any new company all starts from disruption because they believe they have something to offer that's unique, that's different, that can change the game. Think about small military units. There has to be a large sense of belief when they're going into enemy territory or fighting against larger units that are entrenched. You have to have some kind of belief that you can go out and have victory. So belief gives you an edge, especially when things are even. Belief gives you an edge. But in this case with Michigan and Ohio State, where Ohio State was clearly the more talented team, belief is a non-starter. You have to have it. And they had it, they played that way, and they ended up winning the game. So what happened at the end of the game? Well, the emotions went crazy. There was this flag planting, which ended up changing the rules. Or college football can't plant flags anymore. There was a brawl on the field. It got really ugly. But one of the things I want to highlight on what happened after the game is Ryan Day was interviewed immediately. Right, there's camera equipment. They come up. The reporter asks him, and he says, "I quote this: I have to take ownership." The head coach for the Ohio State Buckeyes, losing that game at home, said, "I have to take ownership. I'm the one who makes the final decisions." I say that because it's so important. Leadership, a lot of people think it's titles and be able to do what you want. You have the burden of responsibility. And he was saying, it's on me. It's on me. I applaud Ryan Day. That's a tough thing to say. It's a tough thing to take ownership on. But he said, it's on me. And what I liked about it was he, okay, this is not out of scope, but usually when you lose this game, this big game, you're done for the season. You're not playing for national championship. The rules are a little bit different this way, and they were still able to compete for a national championship. Never happened before. They're the first ones to be able to do this. They made adjustments, and they won a national championship. I think they played 3 games after this, but they did make adjustments, and you have to give them respect for making those adjustments. For a coach to say it wasn't on the team, wasn't on the refs, wasn't on the other, whatever it was, making excuses, he says, it's on me. Make it changes. Let's see what happens. And that's what they did. So the question, obviously, leading into this game a year later is how are the teams going to show up? How are the teams, lessons learned from both Ohio State losing and Michigan winning? Which team is going to be best at learning from last year and bringing it in this year? So top 3 takeaways for this video. So I do have them here on my board again. So the first one, talent, we're going to say, right? Talent wins games, but leadership wins championships. You can't overlook execution. You have to have execution. Let's see who takes the execution very seriously. But that's the first one. The second one, urgency and emotional readiness separates good from great. I tell my team, I don't want to be lucky, I want to be good. If you want to be great, you got to learn to use your emotions to your advantage. You got to be able to use urgency to get it done early and often. That's the second main point here. And the third one, leaders own their failure and then they evolve. Ryan Day did that. He owned the loss. He said, I need to do better. We're going to make changes. And he did. And they won a national championship. Let's see what happens this year. Okay. Leaders they have to own it. It comes on them. And then they got to evolve. those are the main points for this video. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens. Teams are a little bit closer in talent. I think Ohio State still has better talent this year. It is in Ann Arbor. There's a lot of emotions from last year. Every year it's crazy. You just never know what's going to happen. But let's see. Let's see what happens. And if you probably already know this by now, but I am a Michigan man. I was part of the basketball team for 4 years as a head manager, as a manager there, John Beeline. I'm a Michigan man, so go blue. And before we wrap this up, I do want to extend an offer. I have a workshop that I'm going to be hosting on how to crush 2026. If you want to learn some really good methods and create structure on how to make 2026 the best year ever, I have a 1-hour free workshop together. I got 2 different dates in December. They're different times as well, but I invite you to come and get ready to crush 2026. And so as I wrap up this podcast, remember, whether you're leading yourself, leading others, or leading leaders, be a leader. My name's Daniel Pinedo. Thank you for watching. Go Blue, and until next time.